Welcome once again to the S.E.M podcast. Jack and Zach are here again, and we are joined by the legend that is the famous Trent Clawson. Trent, how are you?
I'm doing good. That's quite the intro.
Well, you've been mentioned quite a few times as we've been doing this now for almost a year, and
Yeah.
I know for certainty that many people are looking forward to hearing from you. So, tell us what part of the world you're calling from.
I am in Pocatello, Idaho. So I'm
Wow.
not too far. Oh, Chris, you're guys in Colorado, right?
We are,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're in the same time zone at least.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you've listened to the podcast, or at least you have been playing some catch up, at least what you told me. We'll talk pre-mission and the reaction of getting your call to Scotland. Then we'll jump over, talk about life since you've been home, and then we'll go back through the mission. So you're up, Trent.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys for your time. I just want to start by just saying thank you. You know, this is so cool to see, and it's so fun to see how many people are like just watching people talk within seconds. I can tell it's them, you know, like, and so many things have not changed. Accents or just little nuances, especially some of my companions, like you'd ask them questions or they'd start telling a story and I could anticipate how the story would play out, how they would tell it. I could tell when they were nervous or everything. It was just so fun. Oh, just so good. So thank you guys for putting this together. I appreciate it. Take some time. So.
Oh, absolutely. We've definitely learned that it's like, I mean, as if no time has passed and we're sitting down and talking with our friends as if, you know, we're sitting in the Bingham Chapel just having a great time with each other, you know?
Yep. I wonder, without going too off in the weeds too quickly, I wonder if that's totally, you know, next life, spirit world sort of thing, if that's going to be a lot of that, you know, just reviewing things. And it'll be cool to see how much, you know, what's it called, TiVo or whatever we can do, just automatically replay and say, especially challenging stories, like, that's not what happened. Let's watch it again, you know? Maybe that's what all things brought to your remembrance will look like, you know, is replay.
Total recall. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Well, yeah, let me start. So I, like a lot of missionaries or a lot of past guests said, you know, I was raised, grown up in the church and, you know, sang the songs, you know, I hope they call me on a mission from day zero, and was always excited to serve. I was never really anxious or anything, just, you know, like a lot of people said, it's just sort of the next step. But my brother, I have an older brother who's 4 years older than me, and seeing, you know, and I've always, and to this day, continue to just look up to him so much. And when he served in Venezuela, and so he would write letters back, you know, every week or so, and just reading of all the adventures he had and the testimony that he had, and of course calling him on Mother's Day and Christmas, and just hearing his testimony was just like, wow, I want that. I want those experiences. I want to have that kind of growth in my life. And I've always just looked up to him. So, but the summer or two before I really started saving up, I was really wanted to pay for it myself. For some reason, I was fixated on that. And that summer, right before I left, so my birthday's in June. So I was supposed to turn my papers in June in 2003. But as June came and went, my brother was home between semesters of college. He's 4 years older than me, so he had come back, you know. Anyway, he's between semesters in college. And as my birthday came and went, you know, I was making so much money. I think I was making like $17 an hour, which is good money. But at the time I was like, man, and I'm like, hey, if I could stay here a little longer, maybe I could save up for like the first semester or two of college. And I remember something started messing with my head. I remember like driving by a car dealership one time. There's like a Mustang for sale. And I thought, man, I might be able to afford that. And right then I was like, wait, 1 second. That started like, what am I doing? You know, and I was still, you know, so committed to serving, but there was for sure some temptation, you know, with that kind of, I wasn't earning a lot, but enough to start doing other things. And then I remember there was one night I came home and my brother said, you know, when are you going to turn your papers in? I said, well, I'm just not ready yet. And he's like, well, no, what are you waiting for? And so I gave him some concerns that I'd had. And, I don't know the discussions well enough, it's back, 6 discussions at the time. Right.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to be, memorized and be prepared. And he's like, if you wait till you're ready, you'll never go. You'll never be ready. You have to have faith and go. And that really hit me hard. And that was that and the whole Mustang thing. Definitely. Oh man, I'm going to start crying. That was totally a huge moment in my life. I look back on that all the time now and think how close in my life, I'm sure a lot of people too, there's so many times where I could have chosen one path, but I didn't. And it was just so close. And it's terrifying actually to look back and think, what if that conversation hadn't happened, Anyway. So
there's
yeah,
so many things in life like that, right? Like, well, I'm not ready to have kids or get married or go to college, or if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. You're never ready for those things.
That's very true.
Yeah, so true. Of course, that's the kind of things we encouraged our friends in Scotland, and of course throughout our life, to do as well. So turned my papers in. Got called, I think in October. Of course, opened it up with my family around. I got called to Edinburgh, Scotland, and no one corrected me, because we didn't know any better. I'm from Alaska, so we don't. Oh man! Which, by the way, side note, as speaking of Alaska, throughout my mission, when people would say, where are you from? And where do you stay? And I would say Alaska, and all the time people would say, "Man, your English is so good." And I'm thinking, do you think I speak? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, I work really hard on it. I just go with it. Anyway,
those yours.
Yeah, own it.
It's amazing.
But open my So then, and I think it was October or so. So I had 3 months to wait, which felt like forever. But then I, served my mission.
You went in to the MTC December 23rd then?
Yep, exactly. Good math. Okay. Well done. Yep.
I just know because it was the group before mine.
Yeah, nice. So we had, and I remember that that first, I got maybe not, don't want to cut in reminiscing too much, but I served with Elder Webb as my companion in MTC. And this is maybe TMI, but that first night, the jet lag was weird. I remember waking up at heaven knows what time in the morning. I had to go to the bathroom so bad, but I was so afraid to wake up Elder Webb. So I just waited for lours. Couldn't sleep. I was just dying because I was so afraid to wake him up. Elder Webb, Elder Webb, he's a cool kid, man. I looked up to Elder Webb so much, even right away, and I didn't want to be that guy. So I finally just rolled out of bed. I was like, and it's so funny because I was afraid to go to the bathroom by myself, in MTC, you're supposed to be with your companion all the time. So I woke him up and he was he was cool about it. But anyway, I just remember that just now. But anyway, well, I don't want to sneak into the mission too fast, but yeah.
Yeah, come catch us up now. What have you been up to since you got home?
Yeah, so got back, of course, December of 2005. And oh man, so right away, I went to BYU, Idaho, and I started, I think the first day was January 5th or something. So I was home for a week and a half, 2 weeks. And Darren Allen, who I served with basically 3 times, we'll talk about that in a minute. We are just best friends. And so we were also roommates again, and I just served with him a couple months prior. And all of my flatmates, see, I used proper language there. My roommates, my flatmates, we were all had all returned that same transfer, and so there were 6 of us. And anyway, that was just nuts. But so Darren and I, Elder Allen and I, Darren and I, we were walking to church. This is before school even started. It was that first Sunday, and we were in our mission suits because we didn't have time to get anything else. And we were walking down this path to our church where we're going to meet, and this girl was walking towards us, and I just went, "Excuse me, could I stop to?" Or I said, "Excuse me, can I talk to you for a second?" And then Darren turned to me, and we looked at each other, and we just walked right past her. Dude, we were so so in the mode. And Darren later, after that, he's like, I didn't even notice. I was just like ready for you to go. Like, GQer with like the, visiting the Nephites card. Man, I was ready to go because we were just like, it had only been like a week and a half, man. It was nuts. So I totally GQ'd some chick at BYU Idaho. And I know that was just so funny. Like last couple of months, I was on my mission. I started writing a return missionary handbook, like a white handbook, but for return missionaries, kind of as a joke. And then when I got back, so when I was at the apartment with all these brand new return missionaries, I self-appointed myself as district leader, and we had district meeting, and it was like how to commit girls to dates. We split up the campus into areas. And so if you met a girl, you were supposed to like transfer. They're like, oh, I met a girl in your area. Like this, this apartment complex, snowed in. Oh, that's her. She's super cool, but she's in your area, so I'll give her your number. Or it's just so messed up. But we were, we were just so brand new back. It was so funny. And obviously it wasn't too serious, but it was just really fun. But yeah, so right away I signed up for, I did 2 semesters before I went. So I was a sophomore, and, but I hadn't declared a major, I don't think, at that time. So I signed up for like every class. I signed up for like 30 credits or something, I wanted to get all the slice of everything. But I actually really wanted to be a seminary teacher because I think a lot of return missionaries want to be that way. And I actually met with Brother Williams, who I'd had a missionary prep class with before I left. And I went to him and told him I don't want to be a seminary teacher. And he was just like, and this is no hate to seminary teachers at all. He was like, hey, talk to me about your financial goals in life, And I was like, well, I'd like to have a house and a car. He's like, yeah, you're not gonna have any of that as a seminary teacher, just like. I think later, I actually talked to him about a couple of years later, and the reason why is he had heard that 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times from return missionaries, and he would just kind of shake them a little bit, try to not dissuade them, but make sure they really wanted to do that. And so anyway, just a side note. So I wasn't going to do that, but anyway, I went to all these classes. Long story short, that's a whole story, but. And I went to, I also signed up for Business 101, which is like, what is business? Like business, I don't know. What does that even mean? Like, anyway, I signed up for it, and Mark Nygren was a teacher for that class. And long story short, he said something during that class. Well, I'll just tell you what it was, just really quick. He said, he divided the class in half and said, the purpose of business is to make money. So this side of the class says, I believe that's true, or this side of the class, I don't think that's true. And we just debated that for like most of the class. And then towards the end, he said, essentially, he's like, the purpose of business is to gather, to gather people together to achieve something that an individual couldn't do on their own. And this idea, and then he would talk about that business people have the responsibility to improve the world, to launch products and services to make our lives safer and better, and that we'll be held accountable at the last day for how we manage that stewardship. And this whole discussion just nailed me. Like, it was so one of those few moments in my life where it's just crystal clear. That's what I was supposed to do, was that. And so, not change the world per se, but just, that was what I should be doing. And so anyway, so I studied business, graduated in 2007. Long story, I met a gal named Stephanie, and then I went back to, anyway, I met her for a little bit, and then I went to back home for the summer, and I came back, and I had this business idea, and she was a graphic designer, and my business idea involved web design. And so I saw her at like the first day back from summer break, and I said, hey, I have this business thing. I have a bunch of questions about graphic design. Can I swing by and have a few questions? She's like, sure. So I went by and talked to her, and that was cool. And then a couple days later, I was walking past her apartment, and again, just had this super strong impression to go ask her on a date, which I don't do that. That's like, I don't know. I was waiting for a girl just to like appear, and I don't know what my expectations were, but I hadn't gone on any dates really since I got back. Not like legit ones, just stupid, messing around kind of thing, but nothing's really serious. And so I like shrugged it off, kept walking up the hill, and just again, this super strong impression, I should go ask her. So I went and asked her. Super funny. She said yes, and then it was only so a couple days later, September 14th, 2006. I went to go pick her up, and like a good missionary, I had a plan and a backup plan. And my main plan failed. The thing was closed, and so I had a backup plan. I just remember laughing about that. I still had this backup plan mentality from. Dude, it took me so long to get out of the mission, man. It was crazy. Like my time reckoning is 6 weeks for like years. Like, oh, it's been another transfer. That's great. Anyway, it's crazy. But anyway, so we got married February 16th, 2007. So it wasn't very long. We didn't waste a lot of time, got married. And then we graduated in 2008, which was a really crazy time for the economy. And man, I'm screaming around here. I also had started a company called Smart Housing at the time that was paying for school and doing all sorts of cool stuff. And that's what I wanted to do, was be an entrepreneur. But then 2008, just a couple months before I graduated, the whole economy was just collapsing. And our professors were like, man, you're going to be flipping burgers for the rest of your life, kind of thing. And but Walmart, the corporate Walmart, had a free pizza. There's a gal named Renee McCabe, who I knew later. She was visiting from Walmart, and they were offering free pizza if you just come listen to their presentation about Walmart corporate. And I was like, Walmart's like the opposite of entrepreneurship in my mind. That's Fortune 1 company, but it's free pizza, and I was hungry, so I went. But it sounded like such a cool place to work and such a family-friendly kind of place. She talked it really well. And so why not? So I applied to go. BYU Idaho paid for us to go out there. I thought it'd be a great career experience. And I got a job offer, which was nuts. And it was a great offer. It was like plenty, it's good money, good place. We prayed about it, and answer came back. That's what we were supposed to do, which was like, I don't know, just so... Like, I mean this is sarcasm, but like, this is one of those times where I'm like, I don't know why I pray about this stuff, because like I get the answer that I probably don't want to do. But so we sold the company, didn't make like millions or anything, but paid for all that debt kind of thing. I think I got like a free laptop out of it, in a laptop in the end, out of the whole thing. But it was awesome. It was such a good experience. But anyway, and then like the first couple of weeks at Walmart, this January. Oh, by the way, we had our first baby. January 21st, 2009. That was still that's a whole, you guys are parents too, so that's just such a crazy experience. But at any rate, boy, my head's hurting. I'm trying to like think what to include here. But anyway, the first few weeks, they just had me change font colors, ma'am, in like Excel. And I was like, dude, I'm going to die. Because I just come from like, or I come from school where we're supposed to change the world, and I'd been an entrepreneur and started my own company, and now I'm changing font colors. And so I needed something to keep me going, a creative flow to go, keep going. So I decided that, long story short, I decided I was going to start a YouTube channel and start building drones, and I was going to fly a drone across the United States. That was my goal in 5 years. And so I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anything about aeronautical engineering or all the electronics it would take to do this, but I thought that'd be challenging enough, and it's something I could control, relatively speaking, and it would be cool to interact with the community and have them give me feedback and yada yada, all that stuff. So I started a YouTube channel. I'm telling you this because this led to what I do today. But over the next 4 years, I did all this. I did like 360 videos or some crazy thing. I think at one time I had something near like 100,000 subscribers. Not that that wasn't the goal, but it was like popular enough. It was pretty cool. It was super cool. And I got to, meet so many people all over the world and do all sorts of cool stuff. But at any rate, I'll try to fast forward here. At some point, oh, by the way, like two or three, we had 3 kids during this time. Sorry. I do remember how many kids I have. 2 or 3, what was it? But anyway, so we had 3 kids during this stage. I eventually got called as a seminary teacher, by the way, as a calling. It was amazing. Oh my gosh, that was so cool. That's a other story for another day. But fast forwarding to the career thing, I guess. I started getting So I wanted to fly this plane across the country, but to do that, I had to have a better battery because, long story, the math just wasn't going to work with the battery technology that was out there. So starting in like sometime in 2013, 2014 or so, I started doing some research, obviously hobby grade research into battery stuff, and I started building batteries for my drone using a certain kind of technology called lithium ion. Everyone knows it today, but at building it in RC airplanes, remote control airplanes, that was not a thing. And I started breaking some records. And so companies started contacting me and said, hey, could you build us a battery? And I was like, sure. Why don't you, here's a link to buy me the cells. You buy them. I'll ship them to my address. I'll build them. By the way, I'm in my basement, just so you know. I'm like some random, YouTuber here. I'm not like a company. I don't have insurance or anything. But that kept happening until I think at one point I was like, okay, I got to start charging for this because it just got so much activity. And then at one point I was like, maybe I could turn this into a business. Man, I'm passing so many things, of course. But at any rate, I started the company Titan with $50 and just rolled it. As a long story, basically did all these things just to earn more money until I got enough to where I could build my own battery. And so I bought 100 units, and I think I wire transferred like $1,400 to China to build 100 units. That was the only night I couldn't sleep in my whole life. I couldn't sleep. So I'm like, dude, what if they just steal it? I like emailed them like 10 times. Did you get it yet? Did you get it yet? And they're like, the next morning, like, hey, calm down. We got it. It'll take us a week or two to build these. And so anyway, they long story short, they came in. I posted them to my YouTube channel. I'm like, hey, I got these cool batteries. If you're interested, here's the website. And I sold them out the first weekend. I was like, whoa, okay. And I basically doubled my money kind of thing. But the cool thing was just like, hey, this could be a thing. And I still teach in seminary, still doing, full-time job. And, by the way, super side note, from about a year after I got back from my mission, all the way till a couple of years after this story, I would only sleep like 2 or 3 hours a night, every night.
My goodness.
For like 8 years. It was crazy. But trying to start this company really stretched that in a horrible way. I was like dying. And so long story short, all the way to, the business kept growing. And I kept telling my wife, hey, we should quit my day job and do this. And she was like, no, doesn't feel like the right thing to do right now. And I was like, oh, all right. So anyway, at one point, I had this customer call me message me and said, hey, we'd like this big battery order. And I was like, there's no way. That was too much. I can't do that. I'm only sleeping 2 hours a night anyway. Like, I'm just going to die if I do that. And they're like, okay. And then they called me back a couple of days later and said, hey, there's no one else. What's your price? And I was like, all right, it's time. So I went to my wife, Stephanie, and I was like, told her the story. But I just told you basically a little more detail. And she was like, yeah, I prayed about it. And I think let's do it. And I was like, gave my 2 weeks notice that day. I went into the office and was like, hey, I'm out. And by then, I had worked at Walmart and another company for about 8 years during this time, which was, by the way, such a cool place. Like, all these companies gave me this Fortune 1 company. I was doing finance, planning and analysis, doing a lot of reporting. I was basically a finance reporter. Like, I'd go through and look for, I don't know, like a storm hit the southeast of the United States. How much did that affect our sales, and how much will we need to account for that in our budget and in our reporting to Wall Street? Or a question like, because Sam's Club's also owned by Walmart, same company essentially. Mm-hmm. That's like, hey, if we drop our price at the pump at a Sam's Club by like 3 cents to encourage shoppers to go to Sam's Club gas, when they go into the club, how much will they spend? Will it offset that gas price that we lost, right? So just nerd stuff like that. It was so cool. And it was really cool to like change these huge, literally hundreds of millions, billions of dollar decisions. It was nuts. So it was a really cool experience. I had a lot of really, really good people that were just so good at what they do, especially this company I worked after that. We did bakery products and sold to Walmart. So I was on the Walmart account. Oh man, the team there was just so awesome. And especially a couple of people there they just taught me so, I could just go on. They were just such good people. So I really learned from really, really good people. And they were patient with me because they all knew that I was probably not the right fit for like a corporate life, but they were really cool to tolerate my Trentness. But at any rate, right back to quit the day job. And so my last day was October 14th, 2017. And okay, so then I have to slow the story down a little bit. So my in-laws were coming to visit, and my youngest son, Dean, who's he was 2 at the time, I think, something like that. He started getting really sick, like really sick. And parent instinct, something's wrong, sick. And so we took him to the doctor. It's our third child, so we kind of knew how these things, we kind of get a vibe for how things go, But something was wrong here, and so we got him tested for a bunch of things. Everything came back as nothing could be determined. Could be strep, could be whatever. But things got worse and worse and worse. And finally, so by the way, I just quit my day job like 7 days previous to this, right? And our doctor basically said, "Hey," or our children's, or the doctor just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take some blood and see what might be going on." And then, like, I think it was like the same day, he called us and was like, "Yo, you got to get to the children's hospital like right now. Drop everything you're doing and come to the hospital. And we're either going to life flight your son to Little Rock Children's, or you're going to take an ambulance. We're not sure which, but just get here." So, that was just so crazy. And so we got there, and in process of time, we come to find out during this drive there that he probably has cancer. And so he ended up taking the ambulance. So I followed in the van behind my wife and Dean. They were in the ambulance. It's like a 3.5 hour drive. So it's a drive, and we're driving, and your heart had just racing, and so many tender moments right before that too. That a little too personal to share, but you're faced with that kind of thing. It's pretty scary stuff. And then I get a call from my father-in-law. We're like halfway to Little Rock, that he and his wife and my other 2 kids were in our other car, driving through an intersection, and someone blew a red light and T-boned them, totaled the car. They're all beat up.
Oh my
It was like, so like, I was just like, it was a hard time, and I don't want to make it all about me, but it was like, for me, I was a lot of pressure to like provide for the family, like I'm living off, what I can create with my company. And I'm the only one. Well, I guess we had some kind of employees at the time, or we had employees at the time, but not, I don't know. It was just crazy. So it was all of this combined was tough. And then of course the children's hospital was just, so anyway, well, we get there, my kids are fine, but it's, oh man, so much to talk about. How much time do we have? Anyway.
As much as you need, Trent.
Yeah. That's what my psychiatrist tells me too. No, I'm just kidding. I probably need one. This is very therapeutic.
That's good. Part of this is definitely a therapy.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how much to say or how much to scream through this, but there's just so like there's actually we'd actually been to that same children's hospital once before with the same kid, with Dean before. The same week he had his baby blessing. Man, how much this is great. So, oh my gosh. Same week he had his baby blessing, that Sunday, like Tuesday, he got really sick. Same kind of thing. And he had, liver. Oh my gosh, kidney or liver. I should know. My wife was going to smack me. I don't remember, but one of the primary organs. It's anyway. It was one of his organs were failing, and same thing. We had to get to the hospital. Went to Children's, same hospital, and he tested. The doctor was like, "Hey, this is really bad. We might have to life flight you to St. Louis." It was just a crazy thing, but man, so much to say. Oh my gosh, how much do I go into this? well, maybe I'll just share one thing that was really, really, really precious about that, just because the context of this discussion. So my wife, this was when one of his liver or kidney was failing. I dropped off my other kids at a friend's house, and I was driving late at night to the hospital. Sorry, I'm bouncing around too much. I apologize. Anyway, we're driving to the hospital, and I remember just praying so hard, like, to Heavenly Father. I was like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm going to give him a blessing, but, what do you want me to say? Do you want me to say that he's just going to be okay, or that he should be healed? Like, get out of the bed and walk, or pick up the bed and walk, What do you want me to say? And, maybe it's a little too private to share what I was told, but let me just to succinctly say I was given very specifically what to say. And it was so cool. It was so cool. And I went into the hospital, and, and we had friends there. Man, the ward there is so amazing. And we had, oh man, I could talk for hours about this one thing. But went in, and everyone was just so scared. And I was a little scared too. I'll admit it. But I went in and I had just like so much confidence because I knew everything was gonna be okay. Like, and oh man, so many stories I could tell there. But anyway, gave him a blessing, and he still went to Children's Hospital. That was at the local hospital. He still took him down there. But then, I know it's like ensign story, but like 2 days later, so the whole ward fasted. That was the next Sunday. It was just fast Sunday, and then another fast again for a dean. And sorry. And the doctor was like running tests and stuff just a couple days later, and he's like totally healed. Like nothing is wrong with him. So you guys got to get out of here, because hospitals are expensive, but they're also kind of dangerous. There's a lot of disease and things. You're not, it's not a place you want to hang out and stay if you don't need to be there. It's like, get out of here. We were home. We went home that Sunday. So it was like a whole life of experience in like 3 days. And again, I could talk about the whole story for hours, but oh my gosh, it was so cool. I don't know, not cool, but it was just such a sweet, really humbling, tender moment in our lives. But anyway, so fast forward to him going to the hospital. Yeah.
Goodness.
So having to go to the hospital again, kind of feel like that experience, 2 years or a year and a half, roughly 2 years before, was a lot of preparation for that. And just, again, so many, the ward rallied around us, and we lost a car, so people gave us a car to borrow. And then he got diagnosed with leukemia. So he had cancer, which, was, oh man, I could talk for hours. Oh my gosh. The survivor on that was it's like 70% chance that it would, but to get the chemotherapy and the therapies that you would need, you had to basically sign essentially like a contract that there was a certain amount of experimentation they would do with the treatment, because decades before, infant leukemia was like 100% no one's going to live. And so what doctors were like, hey, all these children are dying, so we have to try something, because otherwise there's, so they would just go crazy. Obviously safe things, but they try all these crazy kinds of chemotherapy to try to figure out what would be effective. And they started discovering things. And so in time, it got better and better, survivorship went up. But to continue that, to receive that treatment, you had to sign up for this idea that you might get a certain kind of treatment that it might not, it might miss for you, for your child. And so if you would have got the more known kind, it might save their life. But because you're trying this experimental kind, it has a higher risk. But you're joining this family that has been happening for 4 decades. And so it was so just, man, it was so crazy to think about that. That's, all these children for decades had contributed to this, that we were enjoying this precious gift of potentially saving his life. But I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was just crazy. And, children's hospitals are like the hardest place. I don't know if you've been to one or spent time in one. Sounds like you have, but it's just so hard. But the greater the darkness, the light is more bold and brave, more brighter. That's what I'm looking for. And so, because if you were to rank the places angels go, in my opinion, children's hospitals are number one, above anything else. Maybe above the temple. I'm telling you, because temples are awesome. Don't get me wrong, they're really great, and chapels in the home are great places. But I'd imagine, children's hospitals are way up there. And but those were hard times, really hard times for our family. But I was also serving as an executive secretary at our bishopric at the time. And our bishop's like, "You want to get released?" And I'm like, "No, I need these blessings, man. Don't release me. I need." Anyway, it's just so cool. And the bishop, anyway, I could go on and on. It was so crazy. Maybe just one more story about that specific thing. That night, I was at the hospital, one change of clothes, just little things. You just don't have anything. It was just slept on the floor. It was just crazy, and anyway, oh man, so many stories I could tell about that. But I get home and, I'd been home for maybe an hour, and there's a knock at the door, and I'm just so numb. I open it, and it was this guy doing checking on our heating and cooling system. Arkansas, it's crazy hot. You have to maintain that thing. And he's like, "Oh, I'm just here to check this out." I was like, "Okay, just come in." I was just so numb, messed up. And he stopped and he looked down, and there was a bag of the children's hospital. And he's like, "Whoa, what's that?" Really serious. And I was like, "Oh, and I didn't know what to say. How do you even say it? So yeah, my son just got diagnosed 2 days with leukemia. And he's just and then I know this sounds kind of weird, but he just pulled up his shirt a little bit, and there's this huge scars across his chest. And he's like, "I'm alive because of that hospital." And he's like, "Why don't we sit down?" And I was like, "Okay." So we sat down. I was like, "All right, sure." I was so messed up, right? He sat down, and he, not a member of our church, but just such, Arkansas Bible Belt dude, such a good Christian dude. He's like, "Can we pray together? You cool with that?" Nelton prayed. He prayed for me, just guided, or just, "How you doing?" It was nuts. It was one of the three Nephites, man. It was came out of nowhere. It was so cool. Anyway, just so many stories like that. I could just go on for hours, but it was such a sweet, so hard and so sweet. Just emotion level 10 all the time. And those first months were so hard, trying to run the company, and it was also really hard for me. And again, I don't want to make it all about me, but I had such a sweet joy to start my own company. This was the thing I've always wanted to do, and then to have this just come right in, it was just so hard to I don't know. Anyway, it was tough times. But
no wonder you were only sleeping 2 hours a night.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. But long story short, anyway, so as you can tell, it kind of defined a lot of our lives for a while. But the family, we were just so strong, brought us together in so many ways that only that can do. And okay, so anyway, for about 200, for about just shy of 1,000 days, he had chemotherapy of some kind, and he's doing great. He's not 7.5, going to be baptized in October, and he's a good little boy. And anyway, so my other kids are going to be like, "You didn't talk about us, Dad." But they're awesome too, obviously. But
wow, well, you have three.
Yeah, 3 kids. Oldest girl, who's 14, going to be in high school next year, which is what the heck? But that's crazy. And then 11-year-old son, who will get the Aaronic priesthood next year, which is also what the heck. But anyway, yeah, and then all of us, we're in our 37, 38, right?
We don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, okay. So that was cool. And then, well, I'll fast forward a little bit. Then we moved here to Idaho. At the time, switching back to business, but at the time, most of our stuff was made in Asia, but we started transitioning to making more in the United States for various reasons. And then in 2019, moved to all the United States. And that's a whole crazy story, but this is not TED Talk business time, so I'll skip that part. And and so now we have 15 people in our office here. That's where I'm right now, and awesome team. And can't say enough about those guys. Really good men and women that work here. And I guess why we moved to Idaho really quick, because all of our product was basically made in Asia. It didn't really matter where we lived. And my in-laws my wife's parents. Those are called in-laws. Sorry, they are serving a mission. They were serving a mission in Guatemala, and a medical mission. They're a doctor and nurse, and so they were like looking for people to take over their house or watch their house. And they're like, "Why don't you guys come move up here?" And my wife prays about it, and she's like, "That's what we're supposed to do." I'm like, "Whoa, stop the praying thing, right? Slow down." And so we moved here, and then it's been such a cool thing. I mean, I'm sure we would have done great in Arkansas too. Like, it's not like it's an amazing place to live. It's really, really great. And I'm also really glad to live here too. And so that's basically it. That's all I got.
How long have you been there?
Since May of 2019. So just, 4 years. Yeah.
That's great.
Which time flies,
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Yep. And I was just listening to Brandon Osmond, which, by the way, who was it? It was one of you. Was it you, Zach, that saw Brandon at like some Joseph Smith Memorial building or something?
Yeah, I ran into him and I just yelled across the main atrium in the Joseph Smith. I said, "Brandon!"
Yeah, because I just saw that the other day.
Oh, man.
And it was funny because my wife and I were driving through Provo like years ago. We were still at BYU Provo, and I saw him on the sidewalk. And I slammed the brakes down like the middle of University or whatever. Like, not a good place. I put the window down. I'm like, "Brandon!" And he's like, "Whoa." And I like whipped it around the parking lot like it ran out. And I don't think he recognized me at first. He probably thought I was like some crazed Brandon. I don't know.
Osmond fan, huh?
Osmond fan, yeah. And anyway, he recognized me. Thankfully, that would have been awkward. But gave him a hug, and I was like, "Cool, see you later." I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, have a reunion right in the middle of a. Anyway, I never served with Brandon, but I served with Darren Allen, who served with Brandon. So we're related in some way. But anyway, so I just thought it was funny. You told that story, and I was like, "Hey, I have a Brandon story too," just like that.
That's great.
Anyway, yeah. So we moved back to stay in Mom and Dad's house, and then expanded the production or things here, and then bought our own house. And anyway, now we're here. That's what we're doing now.
It's amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Trent. That was quite a journey you just took us on. And goodness, you've been through quite a bit.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the mission and talk about your experience there. You could start at the MTC and more about your time with Elder Webb, and just go from there.
Yeah. So got to MTC right near Christmas. President Bodine, right, was our mission or our president.
Yep.
Man, such a cool place. Obviously, I was just hearing other people talk about the cafeteria and the food there. Oh, I remember everything. I just remember that whole place so distinctly. I remember President Bodine singing His Hands. I remember that presentation. I don't know if he did that for you guys. So amazing. I remember the missionaries coming in and teaching a lesson and being like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm never going to be able to do that." Just so smooth in the gospel. And we did teaching practices, right? And they would say, "Well, do you want to try it like this?" And I was like, anyway, I had memorized all 6 lessons to prepare for this, but it was just crazy. Of course, we know we didn't do that anymore. We weren't doing lessons like that when we got there. But at any rate, MTC was amazing. Yeah, it's just funny again, just hearing some of the other missionaries talk about it. But that was so MTC was great, and so I went to, of course, Betrain, went to Mission Home, got assigned to serve with Elder Nelson, and oh my gosh, give me a second.
Which Nelson?
Yeah, I almost remember his first name here in a second.
Elder.
Oh, Yeah, Elder. Yeah, I should know. I'm embarrassed. Hopefully, he doesn't watch this and hate on me. Oh my gosh.
Where was he from?
Anyway, he's U.S. I think he's from. I don't actually know. The problem is I know a couple Nelsons really well here, and so I can't. Anyway, I'll remember his name in a moment. But
is it Kevin or Matt?
Matt. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, not Kevin. Yep. Matt Nelson. Matthew Nelson. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We got started in Kilmarnock. We got Elder Nelson was he's exactly what I needed. He was so intense, so very strict, exact obedience and everything. We were so hardcore, man, like so hardcore, which was awesome, which is exactly what I wanted. I mean, I wouldn't say I was hardcore, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to go right to work today and work until I passed out. That's what I wanted. But I remember, like, we walked and talked, preached, teached, that's a word, all day. Like, I know everyone did, but I remember so many nights I would kneel to pray and I would wake up at like still kneeling like an hour later. Or I swear, I'm telling you, I would lay down. I remember like getting to bed and like grabbing my blanket and pulling it like this and like getting this far and like passing out. And I'm telling you, 8 hours later, same position. Like, I'm telling you, I didn't move. I was like, oh, just dead. Oh my gosh, we worked so hard. That was one of the hardest I ever worked was with him. But really built honestly, that's where I got my testimony. Really, was there. That's a whole story. Just very briefly, everyone's often, door to door, people slamming the door in your face and all crazy, as you guys know, and it definitely challenged my testimony because I wasn't. This is not the mission that I thought I was supposed to have, And so a lot of people told me I was wrong, and we ran into a bunch of kind of anti-Mormon people, said a bunch of things, kind of freaked me out, things I hadn't heard before, but were true. And Matt Nelson, thank you for reminding me, brother. Matt Nelson was good to kind of guide me through that. But, and so I remember praying that night, that I kind of needed like not a miracle, but I was like, Heavenly Father, I'm having a hard time teaching this. If you don't, I need more. So that next morning I opened my Book of Mormon and started reading. And it was just one of those moments where it's just open to me, and it was, anyway, so super great. And that was like, for me, that was what I needed to like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. This is, I know it's true. I always knew it's true, but it's really great to have that extra shield, as it were. He was awesome. He had been teaching with someone before. I actually don't know who was before me there, but they had been teaching a guy named Stuart, and they committed to baptism. They actually let me baptize him, which is super amazing. And Elder Nelson Matt just wanted me to have that experience. And I just respect Matt so much. Such a good man. And anyway, I had blisters so bad. Funny story. I had blisters so bad that it was bad. And anyway, let me just talk about the blisters for a second. I actually had blisters all the way for like 7 months. In fact, it got so bad they got infected. And I had to soak my feet like in this tub of chemicals every night. And at one point, Sister Vreens was like, you got to get new shoes. So we tried new shoes. That didn't help. And at one point, they were like, you just got to wear your basketball shoes. And I got big feet. I got size 12s. And I had these huge white basketball shoes. So I'd wear those walking around. And of course, no one noticed. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, everyone did, or I felt that way. And all the kids, man, they just hazed me so much for that. All the youth in the area. Oh my gosh, I just died. I hated that so much. Which is funny. Again, one of these stories is I never prayed about it. I just dealt with it. I just thought that I'm supposed to suffer. Right? I don't know. Anyway, and it wasn't until later, like maybe 8 months later or so, I actually prayed about it. And again, it was one of those moments where it's just so clear. The answer was wear 2 pairs of socks. I was like, okay. Like, it was just so clear in my head. So I put 2 pairs of socks on. Blisters went away like in days, and I never had problems. I wore 2 pairs of socks the rest of my mission. Nuts. Anyway, side note, it's so crazy.
Wow.
Okay, really quick rando story. There was this G.I. Joe, and I meant to bring him with me. I just forgot. I had this little G.I. Joe I found on the ground at a bus stop with Elder Nelson. And I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, put that away. That's some kids, you don't steal that. Because I was going to keep it. I don't know. And it's like, okay, whatever. So I put it on I can't remember exactly where, but a really obvious place at the bus stop. And we came back like days later and he was still there. I was like, hey, it's mine now. So I took Steve. Sorry, we named him. I named him Steve. And I started putting Steve in increasingly more ridiculous places. Like I'd put him on top of a bus. Like when you get on the second deck of the bus, you can see on top of the bus stop, right? I'd put him up there. So you can only see him when you're on the bus, right? I'm like, oh, there's Steve. We'd wave at him. And in Kilmarnock, we put him down in the town square. I put him a brick next to the entrance of the shopping mall. He was camouflaged, right? He's camouflaged. No one could see him. And so Steve, so I put him on one more mission. I actually did this with Elder Rittman later. Or maybe it's Elder Allen. I'm trying to remember what. I can't remember who. I was like, we're gonna put on one more. It must have been Rittman. I'm sure Mark Rittman. I was like, we're gonna put him on one more, just the most insane mission. Insane mission. We put him at the most obvious place, and he survived that whole day. So he retired, and I still have him. He's in my sock drawer.
That's amazing.
It's super quick story about Steve. Only a few people know the story. Darren and I, because we were roommates back, I took him with me to college. I don't know, some weirdo. I think I was just clinging on to mission memorabilia, right? I had to have something to. Anyway, so I took him, and the Darren and I, we weren't dating these girls, but we're kind of dating these two girls. They were roommates, and they got one of our. We told them about Steve because I don't know why we did that because it's a weird story. But they got one of our roommates to take Steve. They took Steve, and then this was near a mission reunion time, and they haha, and they put Steve on little places we've got him. You have to pay ransom or whatever. They're just trying to being cool with us. And I was like, oh, we got to get him. We got to get revenge somehow. But I was like, I had to think of a way to do this. So we got one of their roommates to get Steve back, and we took a bolt out of his back and took his head off, and then rebolted him back together. Get a little screw for his abdomen or whatever, and then we put him back in their apartment. So they came home, and I texted them, and I was like, hey, we have this mission reunion in Salt Lake. It's near the conference. We got to have Steve back because he's kind of a famous guy. I'll bring him back to you, and we could do the ransom game, but I got to get him back. And it's okay. So they found Steve, but he had no head, right? So they're freaking out, and I didn't think this through, but they tore apart their whole apartment. Everything. They got the vacuum bag that had been through multiple apartment complexes, right? Cut it open and searched through it. Oh my gosh. And they couldn't find him. And so obviously, because we have his head, and so they brought him back to meet us to apologize. And I acted all mad. I had prepared because it was hard for me to keep a straight face. I acted all mad, and then I went back. I took Steve. I went back, and Darren and I put his head back on. And then we went back, and they're like, ha, 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 to show him his head. And they flipped out, and they left, and we didn't go on any more dates. That was it. We were done. It's nuts. Anyway, so that's Steve. I still have him. Steve. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so after that, I got to go faster here. So with Mark Rittman, oh, man, such a good man. I just loved working with him. I loved his smile, man. We had a ton of, we worked really hard, but we had a lot of fun too. And so many spiritual experiences with Mark. I could talk about, tell me so many stories, but I just really like
stay in the same area.
Yeah, Kilmarnock still. Yep.
Yeah.
So I was there with both of them for two transfers, for 12 weeks with both of those guys. And anyway, Kilmarnock was great, and of course that's where you first area, first learning all the things. But anyway, super cool. So after that, I served with Darren Allen in Campus Lang. And Darren and I had served in the mission home together. And Darren and I just got really close. Darren's premortal life best friend, gotta be. We're just such good friends. But he's like a dry humor. I think what's so fun about Darren is I guess he laughs at my jokes, but we play off each other so well. in teaching, we played off so well, just in personality. I mean, I didn't have like a ton of conflict with Elder Nelson, Elder Rittman, like, or anything, but just Darren and I were it was easy, like the whole time. We're just so good friends. And I have a hard time doing that. Like I didn't really feel like that with many of my companions or really anyone in my whole life. I just have a hard time sometimes with that kind of relationship, I guess. But Darren was so easy. So I just love Darren so much. What's interesting about that place though, is you may have heard this. We actually lived with a single sister. Did you know this? It's crazy.
I don't know. I don't think we have heard that.
Yeah. So we lived with this, I mean, mission approved, I assume, but yes, I think it was named Maureen. And she was probably, in her 50s or, she was a motherly figure. And she was awesome, but she was worked a lot. We didn't rarely see her, honestly. We're out of the apartment anyway. But I think we even shared a bathroom, which is nuts to think about. Like in retrospect, I'm like, why was that a thing? But she was just awesome. It was never weird or anything. She was just super great. Anyway, side note, I think this is about the time I started doing this thing, and I feel really bad about it. So maybe this is my confession time. We knock on doors, go chapping, right? And so one time I started, the rocks on the side of the housing, like the council housing especially. So I'd pick a rock off and I'd put it in my pant leg cuff. Like your cuff, whatever things, right? Your rolled up pant. And I'd do that at every house until I had like a ton of rocks in my pants. I don't know. And then when I get home, I'd empty them out and make this little pile. That was like, I don't know, just like some kind of record keeping of how many. I just remember that, just for these little details. I just remember doing that, just something to pass the time a little bit. So crazy. And I remember one time in like another area, I like took these rocks with me. It's like weird now that I think about it, but it's just so funny. And I remember one morning I came out and they were gone. Like someone had cleaned them up. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's like some spiritual thing. Like people that didn't let us in and now they're cleaned away or some messed up thing. It's so funny. I was just thinking about that the other day. I was trying to think of like little things that I remember about Mission, but anyway, that was pretty fun. Just really quick story there is I had a really cool, really good experience. I remember one night, it's warm, summertime. And so we left the windows open and right behind our flat, it was a football field, football. Sorry. Yeah. Not soccer, football field. And, there was a ton of youth back there just singing and like they were obviously drunk, really just messed up back there. And, I'm really ashamed to say that I was like kind of happy that they were suffering a little bit because honestly, campus laying was tough, man. The kids just were not. Kilmarnock was tough too, man. We got like straight up stoned there all the time. Like Buckfast poured on us. It was messed up. We had definitely many bruises in Kilmarnock, and so there was definitely some animosity built there. But I remember thinking about that. Then, like the next day, we went to his own conference, and President Vreens basically said, paraphrasing him, of course, that, hey, if you were born at the same place at the same time, you'd be doing the same thing. And don't hate these. Don't let that hate into your heart. And that those two experiences back to back really hit me hard. And so from then on, well, not perfectly, but I was way more tolerant and patient with the kind of hazing that we got. I'm sure you guys got plenty of that too. So yeah, that was great.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So then I got served. I was with Darren only 6 weeks. That was just brutal. Such a good friend. But I got to serve with him again later, so that was cool. But anyway, then I served with Otto Leonard in Leith. Got called to Leith, right next, which is right next to Mission Home. So that was really cool to be near the Mission Home clan, if you will. And Otto Leonard's my first Brit. I'm trying to think. Actually, might have my only British companion. Yeah, I think he was. And we lived in a 4-man flat with Elder Rayfield and Elder Bredlow, which was a blast. Those guys were so. And Elder Leonard and I literally slept on the floor, like just a mattress on the floor. Because I think it was a new area. I think it was. I think they opened up a new area, if I recall. So we didn't have an apartment yet, but it was just crazy. And then we got a new flat of course, as has been told, the apartment was like a jigsaw puzzle. It was like made no sense. Like just none of the space was usable. And of course, the shower in the hallway, which, oh my gosh, basically the amount of pranks that Elder Leonard and I played on each other was just almost like PTSD from it. Like I swear, every time I got on there was like ketchup or like water getting poured on me all the time. He was messing with me, and I did the same thing back to him. It was just so funny. So I don't know, stupid stuff we do, right? But oh my gosh. And then I served with Elder Leonard for 6 weeks, and then I got called to train Elder Megner. And boy, this so I. So when I I got called to be a trainer, and then this story has a couple stories, but I felt like what I was supposed to do. This is funny because it's been 18 years for me. I mean, it's a whole lifetime since that time, right? And it's so interesting to look back at those times and think how just emotionally immature I was, and how selfish I was. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't even think. I had no capability of thinking about my companions in this way. But I didn't even think about how hard this was for Elder Megner. I knew how it was when I came out, and I was ready to go. I was ready to rock. Elder Nelson pushed me so hard. Like he pushed me up the hill, literally sometimes so hard. And so for me, that's what I'm gonna do for Elder Megner. Like I just my default, because that's how I was trained. That's what I thought a trainer did. You just didn't know any better. So I pushed Elder Megner really hard, and that's honestly one of my biggest regrets is that, and I listened to his, and just thinking about the stories. When he told the story about just wanting to go home while GQing in the middle of Edinburgh, I remember that moment, like perfect clarity. I remember that exact thing, and I remember just pushing him really hard because I guess that's what I was supposed to do. I don't know, but I never I'm ashamed of myself. I never sat down and was like, "How you doing? Like, is this hard to learn English? Like, are you getting used to the workload?" Like, I didn't ask any of those questions. I was just like, "Let's go!" Like, I'm so ashamed of myself. So I'm just so sorry, Elder Megner. I would talk to him actually a couple times since then. I mean, after the mission. But anyway, I just truly regret. That's part of my biggest regrets of my mission is I didn't just slow down a little bit. And not that Elder Megner was slow. He's an amazing missionary. It just was like he didn't want to walk 1,000 miles an hour and knock doors for 9 hours straight. And that was okay to like take a breather once in a while. I don't know. It's just crazy to think about.
I don't know though, Trent. He said by the end of his mission that work ethic was in there. I mean, how many did he say how many doors did he knock his last transfer? It was like,
it was ridiculous.
10,000 or something crazy. It was unreal.
Yeah. I mean, and not that, I think that was totally like, so Elder Nelson, the secret to missionary work is work. If a missionary works, you get the Spirit. Let me see if I can do this. If you get the Spirit, who teaches by the Spirit. If he teaches by the Spirit, who would touch the hearts of the people, and he will be happy. There will be no homesickness, no worry about family, for all time, talents, interests will be focused on the work of the ministry. That is secret, work, work, work. Right? Did I get it?
Yes.
You got it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Still remember it. Freaking President, or Elder Nelson and I almost said President Nelson.
I just had a picture memory pop up of me opening that and reading it with Jack, because I think we did that all the time in like our companionship study.
Yes,
every day.
I mean, Elder Nelson and I repeated that.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
That the standard of truth and section 4 every day.
That's right.
That's right. Anyway, so what's cool though, really quick about Elder Megner is we also got, this is not known by many people maybe, and in fact Elder Megner didn't bring it up. I was kind of surprised. We also had Elder Hammond with us. He was from South Africa, and he was being called to serve in Germany, but they moved him to Edinburgh to our mission because his visa thing was not being sorted. So if you want to get crazy, you need to get Elder Hammond on here, because so the reason why I bring this up is, so I had 2 greenies for like 3 weeks. And if I recall,
wow.
I thought about this really hard to try to make sure I didn't make something up. If I did, I apologize. I'm not intentionally lying here, but if I recall, I think he was basically told at some point that he was going to serve in Scotland now. if I recall. This is the hard thing is my memory's a little fuzzy on this part, but I just remember that being maybe up in the air, at least that. I don't know if I couldn't remember, but at any rate, but I remember Elder Hammond was like, I think, if I recall, I hope I'm not making this up, but I remember like President Vreens was like, you're a Scottish missionary now. Like, this is where you're going to stay. And I remember, I guess I just remember the thought or the feeling that Elder Hammond was like straight up rebelling against that. He's like, no, I'm going to Germany. And so he kept learning German with Elder Megner, which by the way is kind of hard for me because they're like talking to each other. They're like bonding, over this. And I'm like, we got to work. I felt so messed up. Anyway. And then like weeks later, I think it was like 2 weeks, he gets a call. You're going to Germany like tonight. So we like ran home, packed up. He was gone. Anyway, So Elder Hammond was there, and then that's it. He was gone.
Wow.
So anyway, super cool. And then while I was at Leith for 6 weeks, I served with Elder Campbell. Again, such a just gentle, kind soul. Elder Campbell taught me so much about bearing testimony, about prayer. I just remember so many specific examples. Elder Campbell is just so quiet and humble and just so like steady. Anyway, just so good. And that was just really great. And it was also, district, we were district leader, co-district leader, we're district leader in some format. And that was really cool to start having some of those kind of thoughts, responsibility. That was fun. Anyway, so after that, I served with Elder Fisher, Devin Fisher. And he was brand new missionary, Greenie, right? So I just trained like 6 weeks before that, I served with Elder Magner for 12 weeks, about 2 transfers. But Elder Fisher, oh my gosh, like, oh man, miss that guy. I need to connect with some of these guys. Just thinking about this stories, I got to connect with these guys. But Elder Fisher and I had, again, so much fun, worked so hard. But the difference was with Elder Fisher, by then I served for just over a year, and I just trained just recently. So when I got Elder Fisher, I remembered very well. I just laid it out. I said, "Hey, this is how Elder Nelson was with me. This is how I was with Elder Megner, and I'm not going to do that with you." I told him, I was like, "You tell me when you're ready, and if I knock every door for the next 12 weeks, so be it. But I'm going to teach every lesson. I'm going to do everything, and you just watch. And when you're ready, you tell me, and let's go." And so we knocked on door after door after door. And when you're out there for you've done literally probably 100,000 doors at that point, you just you got the muscles to do that, right? And I don't remember how long. I don't think it was days, but it was a little bit. And I remember really well. Elder Fisher was like, "Okay, I'm ready." And I'm like, "Okay." So he knocked on the door. He did it, and I didn't. I was like, "Dude, that was so brave." It's just, again, like emotionally so much better at this point. And I was like, "That's so brave. You did awesome. Or no, well done. That was super brave of you." And I didn't say you could do this better. I just let it go. And I said, "Hey, you let me know when you want to do the next one." He's like, "Okay." I was like, "I'll let you know." So I knocked like a dozen doors, kind of thing. He's like, "Oh, I'm ready for this one." And he knocked on that door, and then after that, he's like, "Hey, what can I do? I like what you did here. How do I respond to that?" And that's how I think you're supposed to train. And not criticizing Elder Nelson, how he did it with me. Elder Nelson threw me in, head first, deep end immediately. But that was, it really gave Elder Fisher he and I a really good relationship of just mutual trust and respect. And so that just made it so much easier to train and to be trained by him too, obviously. It wasn't a one-way street, but it was just really cool. So anyway, we got along really well. Served together for 12 weeks as well.
You have to tell the story about how you said that he was Eminem's cousin to somebody, and then you guys beatboxed.
Oh yeah. How'd you hear that story?
You told it to me when you were zone leader in Dundee.
Oh man, good memories. So I didn't want to bring it up, but I suppose I will. Devin Fisher looked quite Slim Shady, and he's a pretty gangster kid too. White boy from Kaysville, but we had a love for rap, the two of us, and just yeah, it was just so fun. So yeah, we'd beatbox. You know, I beatboxed for a long time, so I'd beatbox all the time, and I don't know, just to impress the kids on the street, kind of thing, or have them leave us alone or whatever. But yeah, he looked so much like him that we'd tell people that he was Eminem's brother, and which probably wasn't super honest because that wasn't true, but obviously, but it got some good reaction. And then we had beatbox, and he would drop down a few lines, and I'll tell you what, man, people would we'd take it hook, line, and sinker. It was awesome. Just dumb things you do. But yeah.
I remember just hearing that story, and all I could do is like close my eyes and imagine being a fly on the wall. It had to have been just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. Oh man.
Because when you talk to kids who didn't know who you were, and you tell them where you're from America, they're like, okay, how close do you live to like New York? And I'm like, you have no idea the scale of the United States of America.
Yeah. Yeah. And, he'd be like, yeah, Dr. Dre and I are good friends. And they're like, no way, that's crazy. And it's crazy. Yeah. Pretty fun. Yeah.
Oh man. I love that story.
I'm glad you brought it up. I was anxious to do it, but I'm glad you did.
Thank you. Thank you for confirming it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
So good.
So we sort of in Govan together. We wrote some rap songs, man. I have to find them, some music out there somewhere. But anyway, kind of inspired by some of the Mission songs. But we were anyway. It was crazy. Good times. So then I got called to serve in Highland Zone with Elder West. And again, Elder West, super cool dude. Oh my gosh. Like, I was so I'm like starstruck, but I was just like, I wanted him to think I was cool so bad. And I was just so anxious to be around Elder West because he's such a cool guy. And anyway, just fun to think about it these days. But so yeah, Elder West, serving in River Ness, first biking. I think it's got to be my first biking area. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was first biking area. So that was really fun. Unique things. Of course, River Ness is so beautiful, and the accents were really interesting. I remember in River Ness, it was very, very just chill accents. I remember that distinctly. For some reason, standing out to me. That was easier to understand people up there, and you just get further away from Glasgow, really. But
it's true.
Anyway, Elder West and I had some, a good teaching pool there. Zone leader area. So that was really fun just to have the companion. Just the kind of that the increased relationship with the missionaries was so fun in the zone. And the Highland Zone was so awesome. So it just felt so good to work there together. While I was there, I got two crazy stories I could tell really quick. We went up on exchanges to the Thurso area, and Elder Deaton and I we haven't had Elder Deaton on here. He'd be a good one to get to. Elder Deaton,
I love this story. I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, we were driving. I won't give you all the details because I've already talked too much. But
no, give us the details, please.
Okay, all right. So driving on the left-hand side of the road, right? Of course. By the way, I got my license, which is like, Elder, how do you feel about getting your license? President Vrains, sure, President, that'd be great. So I got my license, and now I just hear his voice so well. Elders, sorry, I don't want to. Oh my gosh, anything. Oh, I remember so much President Vrains. But anyway, so I went up to Thurso, was driving their Murata, right? Vauxhall Murata or Mariva? Murata. No, Mariva. Yeah, Vauxhall Mariva, which was like little SUV. Anyway, so visiting ZL on a bike to their area. I'm driving their car with my fancy pants license that I just got, right? And I'm in the left lane driving up, approaching this really hard turn with a big brick wall in front of it. Like there are all over. And we had made a bunch of wrong turns. Deaton's got the map up, right? Like this kind of thing. And he's like, not this one, not this. We're trying to, I never been there. So we're kind of confused. And I'm like, is this it? Yep. And I put it in neutral. And I was kind of in between gears, going slow, watching the cars approach behind me, trying to hesitating. And I think this is it. So I start turning the wheel. but I'm in neutral going like 5 miles an hour or something. And a motorcycle comes around the corner doing, I don't even know, like a million miles an hour. Right. And I'm like, of course, Deaton's to the left of me because I'm driving the right side, and I could see through that window he's coming, and I drive dirt bike, I don't drive road bikes, but he's doing the wiggle of death, right, where he's got the brakes locked up and the bike's doing this. So and I'm trying to get into gear and get out. I get into gear, I start going, and he just T-bones us, doing so fast.
Gosh.
Airbags go off, and I'm just like, and again, as a 19-year-old. I'm just in shock. In retrospect, I was just in shock. I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of coasted out. And I get out of the car, and I don't know what to do. Like I'm in shock. I don't know what to do. I'm a dumb kid, man. I don't call the police or anything. And there's tons of cars come up, and he's probably 50 feet, 100 feet away from us. Like he had launched so far. It's crazy. I actually never met him. Never saw him. The police came. I called President Rains. I was like, I just got into an accident. And he's basically like, yeah, don't talk to the police, just tell them the minimum, and that's it. And, it was pretty, in retrospect, well, anyway, he goes to the hospital, and I was like, ruined the Thurso car. And then they get bikes later, by the way, because they couldn't get a car replacement. I thought it was so awesome, the ZL. I'm going to teach you how to, I'm going to be a good example. I wreck your car within 2 hours, take your car away. But we didn't know what to do. So I wrote him a card. I found out what hospital he was in, and wrote him a card and like gave him some like balloons or something. I didn't know what to do. I was so in shock, He survived, but he just to carry that story later, months later, I actually got called to court. And so I worked with the church's lawyers to tell the story, and of course I gave him a lot of details and everything. And I was later, I think I was in Livingston or something. Way later, I actually traveled back to Thurso to go to court. And I went there. They had me take my badge off, just open my coat, put it on the inside. And the lawyer was a member of the church. And I was like, I don't want to take my badge off. And he's like, look, it's not, you're not hiding this. It's a complication we don't need to add here. We're just going to make it simple. Just, you're not going to go to a bad place because of this. I'm like, okay. The lawyer told me to do that. I'll do it. So I did it. And I remember sitting up in the galley. There was like, oh my gosh, like the judge with like curl white hair,
like a baluster, right?
Straight up, yeah.
Yeah.
And there were two tables, like long ways, kind of facing each other, but like kind of almost like a little grid pattern in front of him. And like the prosecution was on one side and the defense was on the other side. And the guy right in front of me, or the guy right before me, had done like 100 miles an hour in a school zone, and was like mouthing off to the judge. And I'm like, I don't know if this is good for me or bad for me, but it's this crazy thing. Anyway, then they called my name, which, by the way, they said Trent Clawson. And I was like, whoa, I hadn't heard my full name in a while, in public, Elder Clawson. So they called me up, and I stood before the bar. They said, stand before the bar, like in scripture, stand before the bar of God, right? And it's just literally a big bar, like just a big bar. And I stood there, and they told me to put my hands on it. So I just stood there with my hands on it. And I said very little, the Lord did the whole thing. Anyway, so I got basically reckless driving was the charge I got, as did he, the motorcyclist. But then at that time, I found out about him, that he was okay. He had broken, all these bones and everything, but he got married like in a wheelchair, like 2 weeks later. So happy he was okay. Anyway.
I'm sure his bride did not like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And dude, just one of those moments is like, I mean, again, I don't want to sound so selfish, but you imagine what if he had like died?
Oh yeah.
What would have happened? What if he didn't have a helmet on? I mean, that would have been life-changing for all of us.
Right.
Not the story I thought you were going to tell. I thought you were going to tell about him recognizing you from StarCraft.
Oh my gosh. StarCraft. Yeah, I'm a nerd. That's true.
Please tell that story.
Oh man. I think Elder Deaton did. Was it Elder? I'm remembering. Super quick. Before my mission, I got into an accident. Speaking of accidents, I rolled my 3-wheeler and just pulled ripped a bunch of my tendons out of my arm and stuff. It was a bad day. So I was sitting in, I had to sit in a chair basically with my arm elevated, my leg elevated, and a bunch of like stuff all over me to try to heal up. And so all I thought I could do was play StarCraft. So I played StarCraft for like 9 hours a day for weeks. And I got ranked. I don't remember how high I got. Honestly, I think I was in the top 50 in the world at one point. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
And I still remember like distinctly all the moves and everything. It's pretty cool. So I thought about maybe if this whole battery business doesn't work out, maybe I'll just become a streamer. I mean, I got the mic. I might as well just do that next. So that's nuts. So I want to say someone did. Is that? Am I just not remembering, Jack?
You told me it was him. Yeah. And
yeah, he must.
He's like, wait a minute, is your username?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So.
Yeah. My claim to fame, right there.
It's funny.
That's so good.
That's so good. Yep. Yes. So really quick story. While we're in the Highlands, Elder West and I can't remember their names. Oh, Elder Malloy. Oh, and I can't remember his companion's name. I see his face perfectly. I just can't remember his name. I don't think I ran into him very much. So I just didn't know him super well, but they were in Orkney Islands. So we took, of course, the ZLs have to visit all the areas, including the Orkney Islands, just to make sure that they're doing good things. Elder Malloy, he'd be another great one to have.
We've had him.
He's been on.
You've had Elder Malloy?
Yeah.
I need to.
Yeah, check it out.
I need to. I didn't hear his. Yeah, I miss his deep voice. But you have. I believe you. I was about to check you guys.
Yeah, we had him pretty early. So.
I'll check for you while you keep going.
Okay, I believe you guys. I just in shock because I thought I scrolled through all of them. But anyway, yeah. So we went to visit them in Orkney Islands, and they were teaching a guy there. I think I'm allowed to tell the story. It's probably past the what's it called?
Statute of limitations.
Statute of limitations. Yeah. Did he sell a story about a special meal we had on Orkney Island? Did he talk about this?
Yes.
He did. Yes. That was the coolest thing. Okay. I haven't heard his, so let's see if our stories corroborate. I'll tell it quickly.
Episode 17.
17. Okay, I'll check it out. On my way home, I'll listen to it. I'm so happy to hear. I'm excited to see what he's up to. But so we went up there, and of course, as the story goes, he heard. So I'll abbreviate it. They had a pig, 4th of July, or near that, and we, dug a hole, cooked a pig, and I just remember like so much about that. But the coolest part of that, again, my memory's a little faded. I can't remember who, but we cooked this pig, dragged it out of the dirt, opened it up, and it was just perfectly cooked pig. And I think we realized that we didn't have any utensils. Did he tell this part of the story? I don't know if he did. No one had any utensils. So like, what do we do? Or at least we didn't have, I think we had like a knife, or like we didn't have like a plate with a knife and a fork, right? We didn't have like the whole thing. So one of us it was not me. I'm pretty sure it was Elder Malloy, just like bent down and just took a big bite out of the pig's neck. And I remember him coming out with like the juices running down his neck. And dude, like there was like some testosterone, reptile thing kicked in my head, and I wanted to like rip my shirt off and then run around and then like attack the natives or something. I don't know. It was awesome. It was the coolest thing ever. And we ate pork. What's funny is we had, what is it? I can't remember the name of the drink anymore, but it was like Martinelli's, but different. I can't remember the name. Yeah, it probably was but it was like fizzy.
It's like fizzy apple juice or something like that.
Yeah, and so we ate the pig like with our bare hands and drank that like out of the bottle. I'm thinking, this is some crazy. What are we doing here? And I remember thinking so distinctly, like, was it Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? They were like, we want to eat the king's pork and the king's wine, and we're like the opposite of that. We're like, we will eat it. We will eat it. Oh my gosh, that was just so fun. Of course, anyway, I just remember, so much about that place. Yep.
Were you also don't skip this? Did you also make a fake Nessie and put it on the River Ness?
Who telling you the story?
I can't remember whose episode it was. Jack, do you remember?
This is messed up.
No.
I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
I was not going to bring this up. But
You've got to.
It was the Italian.
The Ottavio?
No,
Manini?
Malloy. Manini. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, Manini. He's on too. Oh, I gotta watch his. How do I not know this? Oh my gosh. So okay. That's out. So let's just talk about it. I tell no one this story. No one. Because I'm like,
yes,
they're gonna find us and arrest us. Okay, I'll just tell it. So so the whole zone gets together for transfers in the Highlands because that's the most efficient way to do it. So everyone's there, and we're in that one apartment all jammed in there. And I don't want to sound like I'll be honest. Like I said, we should make a fake Nessie out of 2-liter bottles and coat hangers and trash bags. And Elder West and I went to a fishing shop and bought like a couple 100 yards of fishing line, like the heaviest gauge they would get. Like this was premeditated. This was not like we just came up with it on the spot. I can't believe we're talking about this. Oh my gosh. So then we took a bike tire off the bike rim and slowly wound up all the fishing line and tied it off. Like all these missionaries, we were doing this. Elder West and I are supposed to be zone leaders and an example of being focused missionaries. And this is what we did. I was so terrified this would come back to President Vrains. I was just so terrified. That's why I never talked about it. Like I have not told this story in 18 years to no one. I think my family even knows. My wife doesn't even know the story. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm a little blindsided by this, but all right. So then we took this bike, which by the way, didn't have a back tire, right? So it was kind of hard. We took it down to, I remember the specific island. I actually looked it up recently just to like remember. Anyway, we took on a specific island that led right on the River Ness, and we just slowly let out this Loch Ness monster, and then we reeled it back in with the bike. So we had like missionaries doing this on each side of the pedal to like slowly reel it back in. And it came. We had a test flight, because I'm an engineer at heart, right? And we had let it out, let it in, and we're doing that. We had missionaries walking up and down the walkway next to the river just to watch it and take pictures of it. The whole time I'm thinking, this is really dumb, actually. Like, this is probably going to get us all sent home, right? In retrospect, the more I was there, like, this is probably not good. The more we did it, the more I hated it. How's that sound? Anyway, it got way down there. Our plan was to lower it down all the way to Inverness, like the city where like all the people are, and they'd be like, there's a Loch Ness monster in the river. And it had a tail and everything, by the way. It was nuts, dude. I can't believe we're telling this story. Okay, so it got way down there. We gotta
find a picture to go with this.
I have a picture.
Please send it to us.
Yeah, send it.
I do have one. Yeah, I do have one. It's kind of grainy. I think it's a screenshot of a video. So
that's how most pictures of Nessie are. So
yes, that's true. We had to keep on brand. Yeah. I think we have a picture of it upside down being built as well in the apartment. In the flat, I'm pretty sure. So I'll have to find that. But at any rate, the line broke. And so Nessie just floated down the river and they got caught. This is messed up. Why are we talking about this? Can we cut this section out?
No, we cannot.
Nessie got caught on one of the bridges and the police were called. Like ambulances and police were coming because someone thought someone had jumped off the bridge. And they shut down like a good part of Inverness. This is so insane. Anyway, so we just like left. We like, let's get out of here. Like calling people on, we had cell phones, right? Like get out of here. Like abort. Like everyone back to the flat. It was messed up.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh my gosh.
I can't believe I was really hoping you guys were going to bring that up.
Episode 82, Michaela Manini.
Elder Manini, man. I miss that guy. Anyway, oh my gosh. He's a good missionary too. He's a good man.
Thank you for humoring me, Trent.
Oh my gosh.
And all those listening. Those that were there are going to be just rolling around listening to that, I promise.
I'm not going to name any names. I will take full responsibility for that. Punishment-wise. Sorry. Yeah. Again, I actually kind of feel really bad about it because, like, as his own leader, we're supposed to be like this good example, and I don't know what the freak, man. Anyway, so
I'm telling you right now that President Vrains is not going to call you after he hears this. I'm pretty sure you'll be fine.
Oh man, he might after I did the impression of him.
No,
he'll love it.
He'll love it. He will.
Yeah. So then I served in Dundee with Darren Allen, really for the third time, right? We were in the mission home together, or the MTC together, and we're good friends there too. And I was so excited for that. And Dundee, for some reason, I don't know, I don't recall it being a new area, but maybe it was. We had no one to teach. And Darren and I were kind of at this stage in our mission. Actually, to be blunt, I started struggling with some mental health things at that time. And Darren was just so awesome. And we just took care of each other, man. We worked so hard. I think that was probably the second after working with Elder Nelson. It was probably the hardest we ever worked. Darren and I felt like we had to be we had to have the highest teaching pool in the whole zone. And so we just knocked, we taught, we prayed, we fasted. I just remember hurting so much there, like just working so hard. And we just prepared, agonized over our zone conferences or zone things, zone responsibilities, and district, leader responsibilities. We were on exchanges. We prepared everything so much work. We just worked so hard. I don't know. That's the best way I can describe it. We just worked so hard. I just remember that really clearly. And of course, Dundee's. Yeah.
Zach and I were both in that zone.
Yeah, we were there.
Oh, well, thank you. I had forgotten.
So,
I don't remember when we passed.
So we tried. You made the sweatshirt with the scripture page on the back, right? Yeah. We're all of us are on there. So.
Of course. Yeah. But
you wrote that epistle, and it is one of the most amazing things that you could ever read. And it is, you should have signed it on the graphic, the work of Trent Clawson, because it was just unbelievable.
I still have mine.
Oh, I wish I still had mine. I have no idea where it ended up. It's probably buried in my parents' basement or something.
Yeah.
Man,
yep.
So good.
That was so good. But yeah, thank you guys for saying that. That's good to hear. We were so, I don't know, maybe I don't want to speak for Darren, but I was so worried, because I was in the Highland before, and Elder West had been zone leader before there. And so I felt very just follow his footsteps. And so when Darren and I served together, we were both just very, I don't know, we took it so sober. We're so serious at that time. I was also struggling with some stuff myself, but at any rate, I have to tell one story that's insane about that. So Bingham Terrace, right? That's the building in Dundee. As you might recall, it's not too far off. I think the M8, if I recall, but it's near a freeway. Do you also remember that you may remember this, but the Vauxhall Corsa, at least that car, by the way, I drove that thing like the wheels were falling off that thing. I drove that thing so hard. I can't believe we didn't die. I didn't learn anything from my accident, obviously. I remember one time we got air in that car. That was nuts. Anyway, you could drive that car, and if you turned out the ignition, the speedometer would stay. Do you remember this? Wherever the speed was. No. So if you're going at 5 miles an hour, it's manual, right? So you could turn it off and just coast in. It would stay that speed. And so Darren and I practiced. I feel like I drove the most. Maybe anyway, I remember that specifically. I would practice trying to turn the ignition off and coast all the way into Bingham Terrace. So the car missionaries, the car inspectors, my goal was I think it was 65 or 70. I got the car 70 miles an hour, turned off the ignition, and then coasted and did all the roads and did all the things and parked. But I couldn't get all the way to the church. I was parked further than I wanted to, but I parked there, and the gauge was stuck at 70. And so when whoever it was, I don't know if it was a senior couple or the missionaries. I think it was the missionaries that did that, right? They came in and were like, "What the heck? How'd you get 70 miles an hour on this? Because the road's tiny. You can't do 70 on there." Oh my gosh. I just remember that stupid prank, man.
Oh man.
Anyway.
You also hosted some epic zone activities. We did the Olympics one time at the Bingham Chapel. And I think it was repeated either prior to or after we did that, because someone else mentioned an Olympics that I don't remember.
Gotcha.
And so, but yeah, you guys, that was a lot of fun.
Were you guys there that we did the trial for the Book of Mormon? Was that, I can't remember if we did that in Dundee or Darren and I did that somewhere, but we did a trial. I don't remember where, but we did oh, by the way, have you had Connor Muirhead on your cast that?
No, but we would love to if you have contact with him, please.
I do. Yeah, I have contact with him. Yep. Connor Muirhead. Connor Muirhead. Dude, Connor's like, again, one of my soul partners, whatever. Anyway, man, Connor's such a good dude. Anyway, oh my gosh, I just remember. Oh, so many memories. My head stopped. Anyway, so anyway, we had this zone. I think it was Darren and I. I'm trying to remember now, but we did this where we had the stage built like a court, and Darren and I bought a mop and broke the handle off and took the mop braids and put them on, I think it was my head, and then we had people come up. We had took turns to try to prove or disprove the Book of Mormon. It was a really cool activity. It was just fun. It was just different, because you have the same thing often. But I just remember that. That was I remember the Olympics now that you bring it up. That's so fun.
I'm trying to remember your trial of Book of Mormon, and if you had a mop on your head, there's no way I would have forgot that.
Yeah.
You know what? Elder DePold was there, so that might not have been that area. I remember Elder DePold. Well, I won't say his nickname. I'm sure he remembers. Dude, I just watched his. He's a good guy too, man. He was so much more mature than the rest of us. I remember that being like, we were all like right out of high school, and he was like, "Well, I remember when I ejected an F-14," and we're like, "Ah." Well, he didn't do that, but all this crazy stuff. But,
yeah.
Okay, so that was super great, Elder Allen, and then I served with Elder Loganberg at Loganberg, which I know you've had. I need to watch his. I actually just saw him recently, and man, he was the best guy. Elder Loganberg had the best attitude. He was so talkative, so easy to talk. He's British as well, so I guess he's my second British companion. I was really having a hard time with some just mental health stuff at that time. And I remember I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to talk about it. And so I needed to connect with him, because I remember some of the conversations, I think that maybe he thought it was his fault, or he was doing it, or something, because we had met each other before. And I just really regret that just things, you're 18, 19. I guess I was 20 by then, but so young. It's just crazy to think about what we went through. But such a good man. I wouldn't say like saved my life, but Otto Lagenberg was so positive and optimistic and encouraging that it really. I wasn't going to go home. I only had 2 months left, but it was definitely he definitely saved me in many ways. I need to tell him that. If you're watching, thank you. I'll talk to you.
Did.
Episode 37 for Elder Loganberg.
Loganberg, yeah, I need to connect with him. I served with him for 6 weeks, so not a terribly long time, but man, what a good man. If I recall, I think he was really into music. I mean, we're all into music, but I think he was really into music. Anyway, I'll have to connect with him. It's funny, he actually reached out to me not too far after I got off my mission, and I didn't reach back because I was still embarrassed about it. Stupid. Now I need to. Some of these people I never reached out because, partly, to be blunt, I was just I don't know. We all go through crazy stuff, and I was such a kid. I guess I need to forgive myself and accept that we all were.
Took Zach and I like 10 years to reconnect. So
yeah.
It's hard though when you're like. I think the thing that we've realized as we've been in this podcast is that this is kind of the sweet spot of life. Like the first 10 to 15 years out of the mission, we're all trying to find spouses. We're all dealing with kids and learning how to be married. And now we're kind of like in the groove.
Yeah.
And we have older kids for the most part. There's some of us that have younger kids still, but this is kind of a good time in our life to kind of, we can check things at the door a little bit sometimes and reminisce. And so, I mean, it's just the timing of this has been awesome.
Well, I think it's very much like, I think you have the maturity. Hopefully, I'm not saying I have this all the way, but I have parts of this. Let's say that you have some of the maturity to say, hey, there's a tapestry in my life, and there's things that I did that weren't my best moments, and the things that I did that were my best moments. And you got to give yourself credit for those times. Like, we did serve. We knocked 1,000 doors, thousands of doors, hundreds of thousands. I don't know. We did these really hard things, and and not just the mission, lots of things. And there are times where we were weak, or we did make mistakes, or we weren't our best. But like, I think especially as parents, like, I guess you're so much more like, you give yourself so much more permission and forgiveness to be like, man, I didn't like, but those apartments we lived in were the first time I lived away from my parents, or just all these things, these most basic things. Yeah. And it's actually pretty cool that we did all that. Like, if I were to serve a mission today and give up all my life and go, I mean, I'm sure we could do it, but and to serve that way, 72 hours, right? 72 hours a week. That's tough. But yeah. Yep, so you're right.
So and my last go ahead.
Oh, then just had one more companion. Sorry. One more companion, Elder Kauhani. He would be another person. I would love to see what he's up to. I trained another time, my last time. So I trained 3 times, 4 if you count Elder Hammond, which kind of counts maybe. But it was so cool.
Where were you at? Train him?
I was in Livingston with Elder Loganberg and Elder Kauhani.
Okay. And
I was with them for 6 weeks as well. So those last 2 companions were just one transfer each, but in the same area. But I just remember his smile. Oh my goodness. Just remembered. We were in a 4-man flat in Livingston, and Elder MacDonald and his companion. Oh, I'm trying to remember. I see his face. I just can't remember his name. Elder MacDonald would be so fun to get on here too. He's tall, funny guy. Oh my gosh, he's so funny. Do you guys ever serve around him?
Elder MacDonald? He's on the list for sure.
I did.
Cool.
Cameron.
You served with him?
I didn't serve with him, but I served around him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was in our zone when you were the zone leader. I think.
He might have been.
I don't remember what area he was in at that point. Maybe Perth. With Elder McConkey, maybe.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, so many good memories. And then then I came home, and then the story, we know the rest. The rest is history. Yeah.
Oh man,
that's all I got.
So you touched on your memories of President Sister Vrains. Anything specific there you want to share?
Yeah. So many things. Of course, I think so many missionaries have said. All right, I'm trying to think. Well, you've already had me tell some crazy stories that I'm a little regretting already. I'm not sure if I'm going to sleep tonight. All right, I'll tell the President Freed story.
Yes.
Okay. It's not a great. Well, it's a good one, but it's not a. I don't know. So he came to visit us. By the way, I have a million good stories, like of really good ones, of meeting with him, crying in his office, stressed. Honestly, it was just like, we weren't baptizing, we weren't teaching and trying so hard. Again, in retrospect, I was projecting my worthiness and my value to Heavenly Father based on how many people were accepting the gospel from me. And when that was a low ratio, I genuinely was like thinking I wasn't obedient, or I wasn't good, or I wasn't trying hard enough. I was just absorbing all that, which is so messed up, right? Obviously, but I didn't know any better. So President Vreens, he played psychiatrist for me all the time. And anyway, but I remember, of course, President Vreens, his sister Vreens, President Vreens' hugs, amazing. I love his smile, just his wisdom, always good counsel all the time. I remember every time he called, I would always just amping up, like, President, how's it going? He's like, Elder, how are you? I'm like, it's amazing. I was like yelling every time. And it was always doing good, but I just wanted him to know that if he needed anything, if he wanted me to jump off a bridge, man. I was going to do it. I was just ready to do anything he said. I just remember so distinctly that. I remember regretting one time he in his own conference, he was basically saying, hey, let's set these new standards. Who's with me? And if I was just like 6 weeks older, I would have stood up and been like, I'm with you. I would have done it. But I was like on the verge, but I just didn't. I was just too shy around everyone else. But I regret that because I should have been like, let's do this, man. I was so pumped, man. I was always pumped. I felt pumped all the time, almost all the time. Anyway, that was cool. I do remember one fun story really quick. He came to visit us. I'm trying to remember where, but it was, parking he had that big car, a Vauxhall Venza or Venza or
sounds
Renza.
right.
Yeah, it was huge. It was like a full-size sedan, right? And I remember he came to visit and there was no parking spots. I remember I kept my companion out. We were going to try to go out and find him one so he could park. But there wasn't a good spot. There was a tiny little spot. And so he pulled up, backed up, kind of tagged the car, like bumped into their bumper, turned the car, bumped into the car in front of him, and just like dunk, 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 until he got parked. So he didn't hit their car hard, but he backed into their cars until he got parked. And Sister Vreens, I remember her not chewing him out, but she was saying something to him, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, what are we doing?" So I remember that President Vreens doing that. I remember Elder Lemon really well. Elder Lemon, such a good man. You didn't have the lemons on, have you?
Not yet.
No.
I have been in touch with Brother Lemon though, and that's something that we're working on.
Cool. Yeah. Elder Lemon, you guys know, I remember I felt like I was there the moment the mission realized who he was. Because it was, who wrote The Work and the Glory, the author?
Gerald Lund.
Yes. Remember Elder Lund was in the area? Yeah, he came. Right. He came to visit. And someone asked him, I'm trying to remember which missionary, but I almost remember his name. He asked Elder Lund, why was the Book of Mormon translated in Old English like the King James Version was? Why was it translated that way? And Elder Lund kind of paused and then turned and said, Elder Lemon, what do you think? And we're like, why are you asking Elder Lemon? He works in the office. He doesn't know anything. I mean, I don't know. I thought that. And Elder Lemon just had the answer. And I was like, and amazing it. I remember it to this day exactly, or almost word for word what he said. And I remember thinking, Elder Lemon knows everything, right? And then we came to discover that he had done all this extensive.
That he does know everything.
He does know everything. So we called him for doctrinal questions from then on. And Elder Lemon, man, he always had our back, right? There were times when we needed like a little extra money to clean the flat because we got to a new flat and it was just so nasty. He's like, no problem. I don't remember how he gave us money, but anyway, he always took care of us. Elder Lemon oh man, he was so great. Anyway, I do remember them. Yeah. Of course, Sister Vreens, remember her pig nose all the time. I can't remember what she called it. Do you remember? She called it something.
Miss Piggy,
something like that. Yeah. Was that it?
That's the only thing that sticks in my mind.
Yeah, I feel like that was it. But I remember, anyway, so many stories about the Vreenses for sure. Yeah. Anyway, I watched a little bit of theirs, but I haven't watched all of it. So anyway.
Well, Trent, thank you so much for taking the time to come on with us. Thank you for allowing us to peel back the onion of Trent Clawson a little bit with asking some clarification stories. Those were awesome. And I know that those that are listening will absolutely love it. Know that we love you. You are our brother in the Scotland Edinburgh Mission. And this is just the wonderful part of this reconnection, is an opportunity for all of us to recognize that we are part of a family. Yeah. We are all brothers and sisters that served in that great land in Scotland. And so, again, thank you for being an incredible example to us throughout the mission, always full of energy, full of pizzazz and love and just exuberance for life. So I just want to express in behalf of those that are listening how much we love you. And know that we're always here for you, brother.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. It is truly about family, isn't it? It's true.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Well, we'll say goodnight to you, Trent.
Okay.
Cheerio for now.
Cheerio. Cheers,
All
pal.
right.
Cheerio. Bye.
Bye.